Welcome to a brand new PowerApps series called PowerApps Hacks. And here I'm going to actually be introducing you to the things that make it easy for me to do stuff that normally maybe you're not supposed to be able to do. Starting with number 1, don't like rounded corners on your buttons. So when you pop a button down on a PowerApps screen, what happens is it's automatically got squared corners. So you might think you're supposed to always use, it's automatically got rounded corners. And so you might think you're supposed to be stuck with using rounded corners. You're not. You just go into the Properties panel and scroll down to the border radius and change it to 0. As soon as you click out of that field, you will now have a square button. Easy peasy. But when I think about that, I bet you prefer rounded photos on the other hand, right? So rounded photos, also very easy. You're kind of using the same radius, but this time I'm going to insert an image. I'm going to make sure I have my Office 365 connection, which I'll show you here. But I'm going to fill this image up with my profile, right? So I'm going to put in a function that you already know about that gives me the photo from my Office 365's user's profile. And then I'm going to round the corners on this thing. And the formula that I stick by is whatever your width is and your height is, you kind of make it the same. So I'm going to set this to a full so it fills that space. And then I'm going to set the height, the width, and the radius to the same thing. And this totally depends on what you're trying to fit it into, but I just use the same number in all three. And then once I click out of that, I get this perfectly rounded photo. So really easy to make rounded photos, okay? Now, thinking about that, you might also want to add some gradient patterns. Some of us have used to working in PowerPoint. We're not happy with just being able to pick a solid color. We kind of want to see some gradients, right? So I found a couple of ways to do that. So first I'm going to go straight to Bing.com and I'm just going to look for the shade of gradient I want, right? Because I believe in cheap and dirty. I go to the images section. I make sure I check my license so that I can use it, because you don't want to use images that are not acceptable for reuse, right? They'll be stealing people's stuff. And then you find an image you like and you kind of click twice on it because you want to get it so that you see its address at the top. Now you can copy that address and basically all we're going to do is paste it into an image control. Now, the thing about this, you got to keep in mind that you want to pick images that you can pretty much trust won't leave, and you need to put them in quotes, right? So this is like the way to kind of not add any weight to your app because you're referring to a link. So if you can put something out there on the net that you control, then you can go ahead and add a link to it here, and then use your Home tab to kind of reorder this so that it's in the back of everything. And there you go, you've got a gradient background, no pain, no gain. Then you're probably thinking, I want more icons, Audrey, where are all the icons? And you know what, to give credit to the engineering team, we actually do have quite a few icons, right? And we have added to the original list, because I remember a year ago, we didn't have this many icons. But let's say you're scrolling through these, you don't see what you want. I'm kind of thinking I want some type of an alarm clock, and nobody put an alarm clock in there. So how about PowerPoint? PowerPoint has a huge repository of icons. So do other Office applications. I just tend to feel very comfortable in PowerPoint. So since I'm comfortable there, I'll go ahead and get the icon from there. I'm going to use this little clock here. And what I'm going to do with the little clock is I'm actually going to enable this clock to be 2 colors. And so all I'm going to do is copy and paste it. So Control-C, Control-V. And then I'm going to give it 2 different colors so that I can use it in a condition in my app, right? So I'm going to go back to my app and steal the second color because I want it to match my app. So anything that's in my app that I like the color of, right, I can go ahead and take that color and bring it into PowerPoint. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on the screen. The purpose of this is just so that I can look at it while I configure my icon. So I'm going to go into the fill of my icon, I'm going to switch it to custom, and I'm going to put the RGB values in there. And oops, I made a mistake. So I think I skipped a number. So you put all 3 of the values in there correctly, and you'll get a perfect match to your app. Now I can just right click on these and say save as photo, pick the format that I like. I love Ping for the web. And then I give it a name that I'm going to reuse. I usually try to consistently use the same prefix with my images if they are going to be working together. So I name this one Clock Gray and the second one Clock Red. This way, in a formula, if I type clock, they both will come up. little tip on the side there that I didn't even add a number to, but it's one of my favorite little tips. It's a hack to keep all of the related items together in the formula bar. So now I'm going to go ahead and insert I'm going to add these two icons that I made with PowerPoint to my media. I'm going to be very careful to note how big these are. And you'll notice because I use PowerPoint icons, they're tiny. They're 1 KB, right? And you have a maximum of 200 megabytes, so be careful on your file sizes. But if you're using PowerPoint icons like this, they're super light, right? So then I'm going to add an image control, and I'm going to size it similar to my other control up there because, you know, it's going to be up there too. So I'm kind of looking at what the width of that is and the height of that, and I'm trying to match that for this particular icon as well. So it doesn't look weird up there next to the other one. And so after I put that image control up there, then I'm going to go ahead and give it an if statement, right? And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to say if there are some tasks late, then I want this to be the red icon. So I have a text box down there called label number late that's looking at my SharePoint list to see how many tasks are actually late. And then what I'm doing is making sure that if there are any, this icon is red, because this icon is going to click and enable you to close those tasks or to offer it a reason why they're still open, right? So I want to draw their attention to the icon when the tasks are late. Now, the thing that I kind of did wrong in this formula is I forgot to close my value function. So good habit to open and close your parens and then work inside of them. That way you don't forget them. But also the other thing I forgot is that my text field has more than just a number. It has the number and the words task late. So I'm going to go ahead and add the left function to get the first 2 digits of that text using the value function to convert them to a number, and now it works. So now I've got a red icon because I have 16 tasks late. And I tried to figure out how I can prove to you that I'm not just like crazy here. So I needed to put a 0 in that text area. So what I'm going to do now is basically just add a manual 0, and you'll see that it goes gray. All right, so really easy to do. You kind of have these flopping icons, and using PowerPoint to help you, it's really easy to go get the icons you need, right? But maybe you want more icons, you're still not happy. You're like, Audrie, I want more. Hey, guess what? Microsoft got you, right? If you just look for the Microsoft UI fabric, just search for that on your favorite browser, and what you'll find is that we have a whole repository of styles and icons and colors and components that will kind of help you find the right look and feel for your apps. And so go ahead and use these. You can even use links in some cases. What about an editable grid? A lot of you have said, I want an editable grid, you know, and this is something I have to give a big kudos to my dear friend Shane Young, because Shane decided to do this for repeating tables. And so basically you can take a gallery and you can convert it into a table really easy, right? And I'll show you how to do that here. Basically I'm just putting everything that I need into the gallery, and then I'm just going to reformat it. But I'm not going to use a horizontal gallery. I'm going to use a vertical gallery because I need the full template width, right? So since I need the full template width, right, I'm going to go ahead and use the whole gallery and get rid of the chevron that is over there on the right, because I don't need this to do anything really as far as you'll see later what we're going to do with this. But basically I can take every single field, do a Control A in that template, and set them all to the same width. And you can kind of play around with what width they should be. You can even take the width of the template and divide it by the number 4 or divide it by the number 7, and they'll all be equal. In this case, this little description column I wanted it to be a little wider, which I actually forgot to do after I look at it right now. But I'm just going to Control C, Control V, put down controls. You'll notice that I'll set auto height when there's going to be a wrapping, but I don't set auto height if it's not. And then I can just, you know, once I get that kind of, and I watch that purple line. I don't know if you noticed that there's a purple line on the screen when you're placing things that kind of helps you know whether you're lined up with other things, whether you're center with the area that you're in. And I really love that that grid line kind of helps me to place things. You can also select more than one thing and Control C, Control V. That way you get more than one thing when you paste, right? And so you can get this done really fast. Also, don't forget that on the Home tab, you have a bunch of stuff for reordering things too. And you'll see me use that occasionally too, in addition to the grid line that's kind of helping me lay things down. You do have a snapping to grid effect here. So now I'm going to select all of them because I basically have them in the table the way I want them. So I'll get these 4 over to the right. I should have made that description field larger, but you get the point. And I'm just kind of tweaking this, and then I'm going to select them all just using Control-Click. Control-Click will let me add to my current selection, and I'm just going to copy and paste those. Don't forget you can distribute them vertically, align them top, all of that. You don't even have to worry about making sure there's the equal space in between, because you can use that align, distribute vertically, and it'll fit them all together. That's really cool. I'm going to make my line a little thinner. I'm also going to take advantage of the theme that's gray because I like it better. And I'm going to set my border style to kind of like a darted, but this is all your personal opinion. You know, this is all just, you know, artsy power apper enjoying the design process. I'm going to copy them all, selecting them all, Control-Click, and then Control-C, and then Control-V outside of the gallery. It's really important that when you paste outside of the gallery. You're going to get a bunch of error messages, and that's because the text of each of those is set to this item something. So I leave them all selected and just change it to blank, and now everything says blank. The other problem is they have select parent associated with them because they came from a gallery. So I can just set the on select to false and all my error messages are gone. And now it's just a matter of replacing the words with the right text, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put the title here. I'm going to go over here and put the description. This happens to be a fruit database. It kind of tells you what is the value of the calories of a fruit, what is the fat, the carbs, the protein. I'm on this clean eating thing where I'm totally trying to get control of my weight, and so you'll see me kind of obsessing on these different types of foods. Anyway, I'm going to select all of these and make them white, which you're going to think is weird, but we're going to put a colored background behind them, that's why. I'm also going to set the weight of the font to bold, and notice I do that in one swoop. I don't click on one at a time. Anytime you can click on more than one thing to format, you should. Now I'm going to add the rectangle icon. Remember, all your shapes are always on the bottom of the icons list, if that makes it easier for you to find it. All shapes are on the bottom. I don't know, maybe we should have them on the top. Let me know what you think. And I'm going to make sure that this is sent to the back so that as I size it, I actually see the words. Notice again, I have the right alignment that I'm getting help with that dash line to know that I'm aligned on the left and aligned on the right. My protein word was actually correct, but I typed it over. It's just that it's too thin, so I made it a little thicker. And there you go. That's how easy it is to convert a gallery into a table, which gives me a whole lot of functionality. So I'm going to make some room here because we're going to actually add some CRUD to this, right? And here's where Shane's videos came in really useful because it shows you how to do this. We're going to actually put a delete icon on this row to enable people to, from this gallery, delete records from the database. So maybe my nutritionist says you shouldn't be eating bananas right now because the potassium too high for your system. So I can select this and run the remove function just by clicking the X, and it will remove that particular record from the SharePoint list. And so I've added a CRUD operation. Now, in this case, I might also add a are you sure and all that kind of stuff. But for this video, I think you got the point. What about docs? I bet you got docs. Hang on, I got you. When you have a document library in SharePoint, sometimes you like to integrate that library in with your applications, which totally makes sense to us. And don't worry, we're thinking about making this a whole lot easier, right? But there's a little hack you got here, right? If you just add your data connection and your SharePoint connection, go ahead and put your site URL in there. You will notice at the very bottom of all the custom lists is a little place where you can check a checkbox and type the document library name. Woohoo! You can bring your documents into your apps. Now be sure you put the exact name that they see on the screen when you do this. This is not the internal name. It is the visible name on the SharePoint site, okay? Once you have that connection, it's really easy to go ahead and add a gallery to your page and associate it to that document collection. You can go ahead and use our quick layouts to pick maybe 2 or 3 different columns that you want to show, and then you can use the little drop downs in the data panel in order to get the file name with extension, which will give you the file name with the .doc. You could also pick name, right? But sometimes when you're looking at that panel, you don't see the complex fields. Like for instance, I think I have a field in this list called category, right? Which is a choice list. And because it's a choice list, it won't show up in the data panel, right? So what I have to do in PowerApps is go ahead and find it in the formula bar and then do dot value, and bam, my choice list will show up there. You have the same thing with author and other fields. Now, if you want manage metadata, not a problem. I do have a column in this list that is purely manage metadata, right? So I've taken a column, I've named it whatever I want to name it, which is MM, which is probably not the name I would name it in real life. But it is a manage metadata column, and I actually have it bound to a particular node of my taxonomy here at Microsoft. And so that only people can select the manage metadata from that node. And then the same thing as with the complex fields, you get a whole bunch of different values for your manage metadata that you don't get for anything else. But the one I think you will like to use is the one called value. How about some easy filters by file type? You can do that too. So I'm going to bring this gallery down, and you'll notice that I've got file folders as well as some other stuff going on here, right? So the key on that is to make sure that you do this little hack that I do, which is just dot in file name with extension. And actually, this is my little cheat for getting rid of the folders. I'm sure there's a better way, and we will expose that soon. But right now, we're just going to look for a dot. Now, this would have worked perfectly to get rid of the folders, with the only exception that in this particular case, for some reason, I have a folder in that document library called Microsoft.com. So that's the only folder that's showing up there. I can't think of any scenario where I would ever have a folder with a dot in it. But of course, because I'm doing a demo, there's one with a dot in it. Otherwise, this would have worked perfectly to get rid of the folders, right? Now, what else might I want to do, right? How about filtering for a file type, right? Go ahead and add the extension that you're looking for. Like I want to find all the pull up all the JPEGs just by changing my formula to .jpeg, right? I can find all of my docs just by changing it to .doc. I don't have to put the X, and I'll get both doc and docs, right? Same thing with the Excel files. I can put XLS, and I'll get both XLS and XLSX. And that's how simple that is. But what if we want to launch the file in Office Online so that they can actually edit it, right? Now, I will say that I'm using a simple launch function on the chevron here. And when you click on it, it's going to actually open the file in the browser. I might have changed the icon in real life. What I will say is I love the way this works in the Power App Player, because when you browse to the new tab in the player on your phone, it actually gives you a link back to Power Apps in the top left. Now, do you love making apps from data but wish we had the tablet format too? How many times have we heard this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create an app and show you, no big deal. You can hack that too. So just go ahead and create your app. I'm going to call this tablet app from data. And go ahead and create that tablet app from data. And I'm going to let PowerApps do its thing, which is, building those 3 screens. And we're going to end up with a 3-screen app based on that data in SharePoint. And I did speed it up a little bit. And now that you see the app, it works out of the box. So you never have to worry about these apps from data working. They work right out of the box. I'm just going to change the ID column to being something else just because I don't want to look at the ID column. So I'm going to put the contractor's value with the contract value there, and I'm going to format it as a number, which is a common thing to do. So I thought I'd throw that in here too in case you've been having problems formatting numbers. And then after that's all done, you can see that this app just works. Now what I have is a lookup from this to this list, which is called change orders. And that column in change orders that's looking up to this list shows the change orders for that contractor. So I want to put that on the same page. So as you can see right here, all I'm doing is going into the app settings, and I'm going to change the orientation to landscape, and bam, I now have a landscape tablet, desktop, whatever you want to do. So now that I have the space I need, I can go ahead and create controls in this app to show the change orders for each contractor. So I'm going to move my left gallery over to the left here, because This enables me to add something to the right. I'm going to add in the related list from the planning team site, which is just called change orders. And again, change orders is looking up to the contractor list for the contractor name. And that's why this is going to be so easy. It's using a lookup column. And I'm going to use a data table here. So I'm just going to insert a data table. And this kind of stuff you guys know already, but I figured I'd bring it out today as well. I'm going to set the data source for that to change orders. And then I'm going to pick some fields that I want to look at. I don't want to look at all of this. Some things are going to be in the left one, like the name. And then other things I don't really need. Maybe I'll click on these and open up something else, right? But after I get that table down there, I might change the file size. Now, the size of data tables will change everything except for the header, right? So what I'll do is after I've changed everything, then I'll change the heading size over there on the right side. And now I've got the sizes that I need for my table. And I can, of course, play with my column widths. By the way, the column widths are editable on the data table, even for the consumer when they're looking at it on the screen. I don't know if you knew that. So after I get this table kind of looking the way I want, I'm going to bind it so that it looks up only the change orders for the contractor that's listed on the left. I left the contractor company name in there so that you can see that I'm telling the truth here, right? So I'm going to select the data table and I'm going to change the filter on the items property to filter the change orders where the contractor or the company, I think it's called contractor company. There you go, contractor company ID, because that's a lookup column. It's giving me both the ID and the value, is in whatever is in gallery selection ID, right? So the main ID is in the left gallery. The only thing I did wrong is I put a comma instead of an equal sign. This will give me a delegation warning, but that's fine. I know for a fact that I'll never have more than 500 items in this list, so that's fine. So since we're staying on the same screen, let's go ahead and see if we can show people, make it more obvious which one they've selected. So I'm just going to select the title, and I'm going to actually change the color of the title so that if it's selected, it'll be red. If it's not selected, it'll be black. Okay, easy peasy. Right. And that's it for the very first 14 hacks. Expect to see some more coming up soon. Let me know if you enjoy this. Join me if you're a PowerApper. Just hashtag your video, hashtag PowerApps, hashtag hacks. Thank you and have a great rest of your week.